Data collaboration enables innovative companies to uncover powerful new insights that transform customer experiences and fuel business growth. With LiveRamp, marketers get the industry's only interoperable platform for data collaboration across every cloud, walled garden, and media platform. Learn more at liveramp.com. Hello, listeners. Today is Wednesday, December 18th. Welcome to Behind the Numbers, Reimagining Retail, an eMarketer podcast made possible by LiveRamp. This is the show where we talk about how retail collides with every part of our lives. I'm your host, Sara Lebow. Today's episode topic is Retailer Awards of 2024. But before we get into those awards, let's meet today's guests. We've got three of our analysts and podcast regulars here. First up, it's Sky Canaves. Hey, Sky.
Hey, Sarah. Hey, everyone.
Also here, it is Suzy Davidkhanian. Hello, Suzy.
Hey, everyone.
And our final guest, it's Blake Droesch. Hey, Blake.
Hey, good to be here.
Okay, let's jump into our Retailer Awards of 2024. Suzy, Blake, Sky, and I have all discussed the categories and the shortlists for these awards. Our guests then all voted for each category, but the official results will be a surprise to them. I'll break down each category and contender before giving our guests some time to discuss the outcome of each award. Suzy, Blake, Sky, are you guys ready for the show?
Yeah?
Yes.
Let's do this.
All right, let's do it. Our first category is the Must Visit Store of the Year. The nominees for Must Visit Store of the Year are Sam's Club, which is trialing new tech and has lots of sampling. Lego, which won the award last year for its very fun stores. TJ Maxx, for the thrill of the hunt in those stores. And Primark, for its extensive store network. And the winner of the Must Visit Store of the Year is Sam's Club. Is this a surprise to you guys?
You guys are shaking your heads. It's not a video podcast.
It's a little surprise to me because I did not vote for it.
Oh, you didn't?
No, even though I suggested it. But
who did you vote for, Sky? If you don't mind disclosing your anonymous vote.
I voted for TJ Maxx here because their results for their stores have been so strong, and they're really stores that you must visit in order to get the value out of their offering because it's a treasure hunt. They don't do a lot of e-commerce, and they've really tapped into the consumer demand for extreme value and upped their merchandising game with a lot of products that people actually want to buy, and it's shown up in their results over the last couple of quarters this year.
I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think I took it less literally, the must-visit store of the year, because I think you're right. For off-price, if you don't go into a store, you're not going to find what you're looking for. But like that group of companies is doing really well, as is that channel. But I don't know if they're doing anything specific that's new that makes me want to go see their store, like how, I'm not a Lego purchaser, but you kind of want to go to the Lego store to see what's happening, or the Harry Potter store. I did vote for Sam's Club because I do think nobody ever talks about Sam's Club as much as they talk about Walmart, but they really are doing some cool things when it comes to making the shopping experience more frictionless and trying to really use AI in this instance to make something that was annoying for everybody and probably costly for Sam's Club go faster, which is that scan and go. And they piloted and then they rolled it out. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't remember the stat, but I was talking to someone from Sam's Club earlier this year, and a large number of their members use that Scan and Go app. They have really high mobile app adoption, which, separate from this category, is just such a good retail media opportunity, but also really just shows how engaged their consumers are in store.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think it's the thing that really sets them apart is the fact that people are using and taking to the technology so they can really invest in transforming the store to lean into that rather than have it as one option that people aren't really using. And like, is it taking up space, or can they not invest in it because they still need to have cashiers? And they've really done a good job of sort of testing and learning and then optimizing it to the point where they can implement it on a larger scale without disrupting the customer experience.
Yes, I agree. They have figured out the best use case for a kind of just walk out, do-it-yourself cashierless technology with the Scan and Go, which is tied to being a member, so it gives them a lot of data as well. And then with the computer vision, which they've introduced in the gates so that you can just walk out and skip the bottleneck that would often occur when you go to leave the store and have to have your receipt checked. Then now they have these gates that use computer vision to match what's in the cart to what's in your receipt, which you scan at the gate with the app. And there was still somebody at the end of the store as you exit looking at your code and just checking that off. But it was a much quicker, faster process. And it works. I think that kind of computer vision works a lot more than what Amazon's tried to do with the just walk out in its stores, where it doesn't work as well for a huge supermarket with so many SKUs.
Well, it's like so different, right? Because that just walk out technology, you could feel like you're accidentally taking something or being charged for something the wrong way. Whereas from what I understood, I don't have a Sam's Club membership. My apartment is too small for 37 rolls of toilet paper at once. But from what I understand, you still go through the regular checkout, right, with this new technology. It's just at the very end when you have to show your receipt so that it gets matched back to what's in your cart. That's been automated. But I think probably the most important thing when it comes to AI and technology and the consumer is like that, as we like to call, flywheel situation model, which here it's the app. You know, if Sam's Club is doing an amazing job with their app and is finding different ways to solve problems and is getting more people to download the app to try and solve those problems, and they're not using technology to use technology, they're using it to solve a problem. And I think that's probably what makes them stand out the most.
Yeah. Congratulations, Sam's Club. Let's move on to the next category. Our next category is the comeback story of the year. This is a brand or retailer that rose from the ashes to prove its worth in 2024. The nominees are Victoria's Secret, which reintroduced its fashion show with a more diverse set of models. Target, which has been struggling to keep up with the likes of Walmart, but has been trying new things. Gap, which had a huge resurgence after hiring Zach Posen. And Nuuly, which was more of a come up than a comeback. And the winner of the comeback story of the year is Gap. Is this one a surprise to anyone? It's not a surprise to me.
Nope, not a surprise to me either.
Was
this a unanimous?
Yeah.
I think that you voted unanimously for Gap.
Yeah. I mean, they had amazing earnings, right? They were saying something like it's the first time in, I think, 10 years that all four brands had positive comp sales, which is a big thing. I think it is Zach Posen, but it's also they have a new CEO this year, and they have gone back to their basics of trying to make sure that each brand stands for something that is authentic to that original brand purpose and mission, and is differentiated from the very crowded marketplace right now. I think, and they're doing some very cool things with partnerships and limited assortment runs and other sort of cool factor things.
Yeah, and Gap's major misstep, which I think of as it needing to offload a whole bunch of Yeezy merch after that partnership fell apart, is so far in its rearview mirror now. People aren't talking about that anymore. I'm talking about it right now, but it's definitely not still sitting in the culture.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how they can keep this momentum going, because, you know, returning to basics and sort of hitting the reset button and, you know, creating some interesting PR around partnerships is certainly like a good first step. But as you pointed out, there's still a lot of competition out there, and fast fashion is only getting, I think, more popular. So it'll be really interesting to see where they position themselves within the market over the next couple of years, if they're going to try to, you know, compete against the fast fashion tide, or if they're going to look for other ways to potentially stand out from them.
Yeah, I think that's where the new CEO, Dixon, and his leaning into culture and just turning Gap and its brands into tapping into bigger cultural forces is really key. So he had great success at Mattel, kind of turning that brand around and its major brands like Barbie. And now he's trying to do something similar at Gap. And I think he's talked quite a bit about tapping into culture and different cultural figures. So the collaborations and the the buzzy limited editions and all of that, working with celebrities and the cool ad campaigns and marketing campaigns that tap into nostalgia but also appeal to Gen Z are really part of that. And so I think he has a bigger vision that's not just the one-off collaborations or becoming overly dependent on one celebrity that could then, kind of doom you. But there's definitely a much more broader approach to getting the brands to work together and be in sync on the cultural front.
Yeah, I think, like from a marketing position, I'd like to see them sort of embrace almost like what Levi's does and just sort of leaning into like the Americana and like the ethos of the brand rather than, figuring out where, and this is, obviously the, Gap imprint has many other brands, but speaking for the core Gap brand, I think there's always been a lot of potential there that hasn't fully been realized. And I think this is a pathway to really not only bring sales back, but sort of elevate the status of the brand as well if they can execute it properly.
It's interesting you bring up Levi because Gap definitely has a competition there with Levi, and they definitely have competition from brands like Skims with Gap Body. So even though Gap is doing really well, way better than I thought they'd be doing like 5 years ago, they definitely have competition from these parallel brands.
I agree. I think it's like the idea around the Met denim ball gown.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember that? Like,
yeah,
it's leaning into the denim part, but not in direct competition and sort of like trying to find your own space in that denim made in America world. And that's what I think that's the way they're leaning. And I think even their star powered sort of partnerships are less momentous, if you will, than some of those big brands that burned them in the past. Like, I didn't know Linen Moves, but apparently that brand did really, really well for the Gap home store. So I think it seems like they're on the path to understanding how to be culturally relevant and lean into each of the different parts of their brands and create a specific space for them that is not in direct competition necessarily with someone like a Levi's.
I think making their campaigns and collaborations fun and surprising is really key. Like, I think that denim ball gown dress is a great example, and their collaboration with the influencer who was talking about looking for a hoodie, that hoodie's like the optimal example of a hoodie, and now she's making a hoodie for them is also something really cool that, really keeps the momentum going.
Of course, we all know that Britney Spears has the denim ball gown market cornered. Okay, our next category is the Gen Z darling. The nominees for a brand that Gen Z loved this year are Temu, which exploded after its series of Super Bowl ads, TikTok Shop, which launched in September of 2023, but really had its first full year this year, Elf Beauty, which has stayed relevant on social media with cool collabs, and Crocs, which I see every day on the streets of New York City on the feet of young folks. And the winner of the Gen Z Darling Award is Elf Beauty. Okay, full disclosure on this one. This was a 3-way tie between Crocs, TikTok Shop, and Elf. So I decided that I got to be the tie-breaking vote, and I gave it to Elf because I think that they are great and have been doing really cool things. But there's definitely an argument to be made for any of these brands, as I'm sure you are each about to make.
I mean, I voted for Crocs.
Yeah. Why'd you vote for Crocs, Suzy?
So I think that they're doing lots of very cool things, but at the core is that they are jumping on random trends like the fur and the charms and understanding how to do customizable things. They are an affordable price point. And they're doing, like, I don't know. So I read a little bit more about what they're doing because, they're riding on the cool, ugly trend. But they're also doing some really weird.
They always have been.
Right, but they're doing some weird collabs. Like, have you guys seen the Crocs with Pringles?
Yeah, and the Cheez-It Crocs.
Worth looking at. Yeah, they're doing. And then I think for me, in terms of this particular generation, they did a McDonald's Happy Meal collab not that long ago with a keychain and a bunch of other things. And so I just feel like they have their finger on the pulse. They are an affordable price point for this. It's kind of like a symbol too. The one thing that gets me a little bit is that their carbon footprint, I mean, it's all plastic, right? Their carbon footprint is pretty high, and that's important to young consumers. And so I feel like they're going to have to figure that piece out.
Yeah, in my household, they're also the Gen Alpha darling because my daughter can't get enough of them, whether the shoes themselves or, those McDonald's charms that you mentioned, I just realized how much traction the brand has in our household. And I can't buy non-Crocs because I tried buying a dupe once and the quality just wasn't the same. The foam didn't hold up as well, and the print wore off. So yeah, they've got us for like at least another 10 years or so.
Sky, do you have the Crocs for dogs? Because apparently they're doing that too. And how cute is that?
No, I don't take my dogs out when it's hot, and I wouldn't buy them shoes. They would just chew them up anyways.
Yeah, the Crocs are high quality. I've mentioned this before, but I still own the same pair of Crocs that I got in 5th grade. My feet haven't grown since then. So Crocs I love, but they are not making new sales on me because mine have lasted so long. But it's interesting that you bring up dupes because that brings us back to what I decided our winner was, e.l.f. Beauty. And that's like where they've been so successful, is duping other brands with the quality of those brands. Maybe not quite exactly the same, but definitely creating really solid dupes.
And listening to their customers, which I think is key to why they continue to hold fickle Gen Z's attention when it comes to beauty. So they mentioned on a recent earnings call, one of their new top selling products is a lip oil, and that they had specifically received requests from customers. And they just do a lot of things so well in terms of getting feedback from their community and incorporating it. And even with their loyalty program, which has a huge number of members and allows customers to collect points no matter where they buy the beauty products. And of course, they sell everywhere. And so I had picked TikTok Shop because I thought of e.l.f. Beauty, but I also associate e.l.f. so much with TikTok because they were one of the first brands to really take to the platform and capitalize on it. And of course, now with TikTok Shop taking off among Gen Z, they're part of that bigger retail trend.
Yeah. e.l.f. to me also had one of the standout campaigns of the year, which was their partnership with Liquid Death when they made corpse paint. They made like a white foundation in this tongue-in-cheek partnership with Liquid Death that was like this cheeky ad campaign. But then I've heard e.l.f.'s CMO talk about this. The goth community was like, this is a great product that we'll get a lot of use out of. So then they ended up like genuinely like working with and like catering to that community to help them with their looks. Okay, let's keep moving. Our next category is Innovator of the Year. The nominees are Amazon, which, among a million other things, launched its AI chatbot Rufus, Claire's, which kept launching new products to stay relevant with Gen Alpha, TikTok Shop, which we just mentioned, has been honing its strategy since its launch, and Sam's Club, which we did talk about at length for its mobile-first and in-store tech. And the winner of Innovator of the Year is Sam's Club. That's right. Sam's Club is taking home 2 awards this year for a brand that we really didn't discuss on the podcast this year. We're really doubling down on awards. Now, we are giving them Innovator for a lot of the same reasons that we've already talked about when we talked about our must-visit store. So I would love to hear about some of these other brands that we mentioned and why you thought they were such good innovators this year.
Does that mean I'm the only one who voted for a different brand?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
This one, 2 voted for Sam's Club, 1 voted for Claire's.
That was me, Claire's. I just think Claire's is like, I don't know, it's an older brand. It's not that old, but it's like around the 50-year mark. It is a classic mall brand that was just about ear piercing and has now, it has done a lot of, like, it's gone through bankruptcy, it's restructured, it's trying to figure its way. They do have a whole new leadership team, sort of. The CEO just left, so there's an interim CEO. So there is a lot of tumultuous things happening. And even in that, they've been able to, I don't know if they've coined it, but they've certainly leaned into this Gen Alpha creator world of influencers and group and leaning in on them. They've understood how to use AI tools in a more seamless way and they understand who their consumer is. They have a new logo. They just launched that beauty brand, which I think is kind of innovative, right? There's not a lot of private label, cool beauty brands, and they've done that. They leaned all in on Hello Kitty. I could keep going.
Well, I think it's interesting that so many of the brands we've talked about so far, a lot of what they've been doing has been collaborating around pop culture events or around zeitgeisty events. We talked about Gap. We talked about Crocs, which we didn't even get into, like, how much they've been collaborating most recently with, like, Wicked Crocs. Now we're talking about Claire's. Elf is another one. I think that in this like creator-driven world, it's so important that brands have these partnerships.
It's really a way for brands to stay fresh and new in the eyes of consumers and, do something unexpected that can kind of bring that element of surprise and delight. And when those collaborations are limited editions, then you add an element of FOMO to it, where if you don't buy it now, you won't get it later because it's here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah. And then TikTok Shop and Amazon, I mean, obviously they've done so much innovation this year. TikTok Shop working from, not existing at the start of 2023 to being a real powerhouse. Although, who is to say that TikTok Shop now is at risk of disappearing in a month when TikTok's ban may or may not kick in? So that's definitely one to watch. Okay, it is time for our final category. This category is the Small Stuff Worth Sweating Award. This is a brand or retailer that is disrupting an established area in retail, sort of like the way Hoka and On have with sneakers. The nominees for the Small Stuff Worth Sweating Award are Majuri for innovating in jewelry, Pop Mart for innovating in toy buying, Sweaty Betty, which is innovating in activewear, and Flamingo Estate, which is innovating in household goods. And the winner of the Small Stuff Worth Sweating Award is Pop Mart, which was actually completely off my radar until we made this shortlist.
I clearly didn't vote for Pop Mart. I thought they did more than toys, no? It's not the Korean grocery store?
Their focus is like the little blind box toys.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, Sky, why were you bullish on Pop Mart this year?
So it really taps into all of the talk we've been having about collaborations and keeping brands fresh with newness and limited editions. And so Pop Mart is small in the US, but they're really big in China, and they've set off this blind box toy craze over the last several years. And now I think they're poised to come to the US and really start expanding with more stores and kind of experiences in the stores as well that will just bring new innovative style of shopping for and buying toys to this country that we haven't seen before.
If I were a parent, I would be so stressed out about the advent of more stuff. But I think that it's interesting, and something you pointed out is that Pop Mart is an example of smaller format Chinese and Japanese stores that have been popping up in the United States more and more.
Yeah, we're also seeing a lot of growth of these like Asian style dollar stores. There's Daiso from Japan that has just opened a few in my area, and Miniso from China, which is modeled on that Japanese dollar store. And they're like super fun places, whereas US dollar stores often have a little bit of treasure hunt, but more essentials and grocery type items and kind of like no-name brand goods. These dollar stores focus a lot on collaborations and having IP collaborations like Hello Kitty and even Disney characters, and everything's really inexpensive, so it makes for a very affordable and fun shopping experience.
There's a Miniso across from the EMARKETER office. We should do a field trip.
Oh, we should. I think for me, this category is really important because sometimes big brands forget to look at what the smaller that have very little market share brands are doing, or the newest new entrants. And then all of a sudden you lose your way. And you could say that about some of our bigger mall brands, and some of them have found a way back, but you really can't rest on your laurels, as they say. And you really have to keep an eye out on everybody around you across all kinds of industries and product categories.
Yeah, it's been, the toy category, it's a lot of the legacy brands haven't really been able to figure out how to sustain their brick and mortar presence. And it is a category that has a lot of potential for in-store, considering that it is an activity for children, and their parents. It's also has a lot of opportunities for experiential marketing activations like within the store. But then over the years, we've constantly seen sort of the, legacy US toy retailers struggle. So it's interesting to see a format that's working, because it sort of seemed like there was possible to sort of solve that riddle, but not many of the US retailers had really done an effective job in doing so. It's almost like Toys R Us. I was walking by the flagship Macy's in Herald Square, and like they've got the, Toys R Us, almost, I guess one of the entranceways have been done up for the holidays, highlighting the store within the store. But it seems like there's more potential in the toy category than just being like a seasonal idea.
On a forward-thinking note, do you guys think that Trump tariffs on Chinese goods, if they do happen, will be a particular hindrance for Pop Mart and other similar stores?
I mean, apparently it's for all the toy category. I didn't realize, I was just listening to a whole thing on this, that a very big majority of toys are made out there. And so it's going to be an issue. And American toy makers have tried to produce in America, and it's so expensive. So I think it's probably for everybody. It'll be an issue, not just for this particular brand.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, is that it seems like it would be an issue for these, like a Chinese brand, but the American toy makers also import their goods from China. So it'll just be a hindrance all around. Okay, on that super uplifting note, thank you all for being a part of our 2024 Retailer Awards show. This was so fun. I love doing this episode. Thank you each for being here. Thank you, Sky.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Suzy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Blake, did you ever find your glasses that you mentioned losing while on the pod?
I did not. Sadly, I had to have them replaced, but thanks to Warby Parker's seamless customer experience, I was able to do so.
Hashtag not an ad. Please give us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you to our listeners and to Victoria, who edits the podcast and wins the award for Best Podcast Editor. We won't be back next Wednesday or the Wednesday after because Christmas and New Year's Day have decided to disrupt the Reimagining Retail schedule, but we'll be back in the new year to talk retail in 2025. And tomorrow you can join Marcus for another episode of the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by LiveRamp.